Welcome to Stream Street Day 58. I'm joined in the house by Mr. John Scrivens. Everyone give it up. Ba, 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 da, da, da. John Scrivens, everyone. Da, 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 da. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm alright. You stopped singing now, which is nice.
Did you get the crowd music?
Yeah, I did. It was really distracting.
This is
trying to think.
Other ways that people feel when they hear it's going to be John Scrivens. They're like,
No, God! No,
Brilliant.
God,
Did that
please,
work?
no! No!
Yeah, I do like the
No!
American Office. Yeah.
Oh
No!
right, well, welcome to the show. Everyone joining us live, thanks for being here. Rob and John just going to kick it today. Didn't get a guest on, although John's the guest. But being one of the Honest War Gamer hosts, you're the guest and the host. So it's like a circular, I don't know what to call it, a thing. A circular thing. Yeah. Anyway,
A round thing.
a round table. That's what it is.
Okay.
So if you are joining us live, thanks for doing so. Please get yourself some water to stay hydrated, and also a cup of tea in these trying times. Hey to Martin in the chat, Warmaster, what up? And if you are on the Honest War Gamer Patreon, literally couldn't do it without you. Couldn't do it without you. You guys have got big dick energy. Thank you so much. Honestly, you guys are the best. Virulent, good morning. Good morning. And hello, everyone. MJ Pegasus, good afternoon. The new layout confused me. How are you? Is there a new layout? On Twitch? Maybe. I don't know.
Is there? I don't know. I'm in a special mode for special people.
Oh, yeah, special. Yeah, anyway. Well, welcome, everyone, to the show. Me and John are just going to do some hobby today. I want to give you a hobby update, John, if you don't mind. And then I'm going to ask you how you are. Right now, So during the lockdown, I've been pretty productive, and that's not me. Like, if you haven't been productive, don't worry. It's a really difficult time. It's an absolutely
Just getting out of bed is productive at the end of the day.
Yeah, and actually, the whole point, John being on the show today, is I'm struggling a bit today. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a long week, and I've needed a bit of a break. I've been cleaning the office up. I was telling John just before the show. And then after the show, I'm just going to put my phone down again and go back to cleaning the office and just kind of zone out. So we all have those days. Don't feel bad if you are. But while we're doing the show, and maybe it's because of this, John, that I have been blocked up. I've been painting these gaunt summoners of Tzeentch, and they are such fiddly little shits. They've got so much detail and little bits on them. And I can't say I'm overly loving them, but I've got loads of blue horrors of Tzeentch to do after, which I'm very much looking forward to. So I'm actually looking forward to doing these.
But that's the reverse of how I am with painting. I like doing the detailed fiddly characters, but not the big units. So.
Oh, really?
We're like polar opposites, man.
During lockdown, I've done quite well. I've done like 40 pink horrors. I've done a Boomdecker Snazwagon. I've done an Orc War Boss on a bike. So so I've done. I think there's something else I've done. I can't remember. Oh, I've done a Wasbomb Blaster Jet. So I've done quite a lot during the lockdown, like painting
and your Scrap Jet as well. Your little buggy. You did that right at the beginning. You've done loads.
No, but still, like I just these gaunt summoners. I just seem to be nowhere with them, and they look kind of shit at the minute, and I'm not sure I like them. So I'm just a block. You know? Do you ever get that? Do you ever get like?
Do you know what I do? I put them down on my paint desk, so they're still in line of sight. I then work on something else because I find that all I end up doing is avoiding painting because I don't want to paint what I've got on the desk. So I go and do something else so that I can still get some painting done.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's the hardest thing to do. Is just go.
Well,
right,
so
I can go back to them.
Well, so I'm trying to do that thing that Alex suggested, and I'm just seeing it as like a hill to push up. So I'm going to get these 3 gaunt summoners done, and then reward myself for something else. I'm super lucky that I spent about 3 hours last night while at home, because obviously I do all my hobby at the studio. I don't really tend to do any hobby at home at the minute, just because it's turned into an office for my partner. I was building a stomper, a fucking orc stomper.
How did you get one of them, Rob?
Big shout out to my friend. I don't know if he wants to be safe, but my big friend, my friend Randy Savage, over from Oz, sent me the stomper. So I've been building. It's classic Games Workshop, old school, no instructions. It's got like just pictures of the stuff going together, and it fucking pissed me off. It was like super late at night. I was like, is that the bit? Is this the bit? I don't know, but it's not built yet. But
And
I'm
it's the different plastic as well.
it's
the
horrible
terrain
plastic.
It's
Yeah, it's
terrain
horrible
plastic.
plastic.
It's the nasty stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't really fun. It's not been very fun to build, but it's going to be very fucking fun to paint and even more fun to play on the tabletop. Unless I don't go first, in which case the opposite feeling is what I'll have.
Just put a big mech in it and it'll be fine.
I'm not sure. Anyway, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. That's where I'm at with my hobby at the minute. I know that's not a particularly exciting update. I'm not like one of those guys who's like, so I've invented a brush which does a particular type of dry brushing, which obviously is going to blow your mind. Here's an example of like a masterpiece. I'm like, I just can't be asked to paint gold on that guy. So I'm hoping this is more like real hobby for real people. Yeah, I can identify with that. Yeah, I can identify with that bloke. He speaks my language. Big shout out to Canhammer TV. Oh, Darren in the chat.
Darren.
Hater with a Dave. Nikos, what up, baby? Hey Bar on Saturday. Hope you're well. If I put an MMX James who's in bed at the minute, so I hope he's okay. It says if I put something to one side, I wind up with dozens of models half done, which is an experience I've had. So I'm not doing that, John. I'm just going to plow on with this shit. Hey James Powell. Oh, you baby. James Powell and you, John. I'm going to ask you about this. But before I ask you about that, actually, how have you been? How are you? Are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah, I had a bit of a low energy week last week, which I think is kind of expected because you get to that point where it's just like, well, this is all a bit mindless. I was just like, well, what am I going to do? And I had no motivation to do much, so I was doing the odd bit of drawing, but keeping myself to myself really, and it was hard. But I think I've come out of it now, but it's all right.
I think we're all going to go through. I mean, we all actually go through those phases anyway. Like, if we're honest, as much as we can say, oh, the Rona's got us, and our mental states, like we've all been through those phases. I know, like past few years, I've been through a lot of like ups and downs. So it can be challenging. So give yourself those breaks. I think the good thing about the Rona is it gives us the opportunity to just talk about it, right?
Exactly. Well, normally my thing would be as well. It's like I'd have a shite week like that, and I'd be like, right, it's all right because on Friday I'm going to go to the club. And I'm going to have a great game. Not having that thing to look forward to is kind of, I think, makes it quite kind of, after a while. But
yes,
it's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yes, you just want to go blow off some steam, right? Roll some dice, laugh your head off. And James Powell, it's okay that you miss me, Scrivo.
I miss James, and I really miss the fact that I could have asked him to give me a haircut instead. This happened.
Yeah, you do look like I'd say you look like a thug, but you don't. You look like. Do you know what you look like? You look like Crabbe and Goyle from Harry Potter. You look like Goyle who's grown up.
Thanks. I look like a rugby player thug, is what you're telling me.
Harry Potter birds are easily the best birds. You look like a really crap Ron Weasley.
You're a skinny Hagrid.
I do look like skinny Hagrid. That's Robbie Coltrane though is a genius. So I hope everyone in the chat's been well. Virulent says, I haven't been productive for a week. It's Rob's fault. You mentioned Legend of Runeterra the other day, and I can't do anything else anymore. Thanks for ruining my life. I'm having a great time. Thanks for ruining my life, and I'm having a great time. I'm not really sure. It's like Dexamon who was in the chat the other day. It was like, thanks for getting that Rambo Squirrel on to talk about Crisis Protocol, because he spent like $2,000, John. He went away and bought everything. Hey, Tibble's evil cat. What's going on?
Sean's found us.
Yes. Right. Well, so something came out. Something happened today, John. A project you and James have been working on together. Something cool happened with that. Do you want to talk about it? And also a little bit of update for everyone around the world about something that we've been doing.
Essentially starting in, I think it was originally we were first looking at them at the LGT.
Yeah, LGT.
We were looking at kind of the objective marker kind of approach, because obviously we started seeing people turn up with those mouse mat objectives, and it's just like, oh god, they're ugly, but they're rude. They did a function. It was like, this is exciting. And one dude turned up with acetate ones covered in stuff, and I was just like, what if that was just clear? And then James was like, I think I know a guy. And it was like that bit in Ant-Man where it's like, oh, I know a guy and he knows a guy. And it all spiraled into months of excitement. And then James finally came up with this lovely objective marker disc thing that is just practical and simple. And we
It
finally got
is.
them out in the wild. And I think it's one of the ETC guys from Australia did his own review for it.
Yes.
And it was amazing. He completely got what we were. And the big bit I thought was interesting that he brought up was the whole concept of the gotcha of, oh, you didn't have enough bodies there. Making it not about a game of gotchas and it just being about playing it as a tight game. And I thought that was cool. Even like for just casual games, just let's play the game to the same standard we'd always want to play it. Which was cool, right?
Yeah, it was a really nice article. Really good. Might be able to find it and link it in the chat.
I can.
Which I thought was cool. Effectively, if anyone knows me overly well, I'm like that typical dickhead manager type. I say things to John. I'm like, John, what about like clear objectives? And he's like, maybe. And I'm like, yeah, you're in charge. And he's like, whatever. Like, okay.
Yeah. As a concept, it's great because we were talking about them, and at the same time, let's do some mouse mat ones that match all the mats. It was like 800 different designs plus plastic ones. And
no, but I still think
I would just sat there going,
I still think that they're an option that we should offer to people. But the function is because, and what I really thought was nice about the blog is that they said it was designed by Age of Sigmar players for Age of Sigmar players, and I would say that that's actually accurate. I think one of the things sometimes that happens when you produce material for the gaming environment is you don't really understand the gaming environment itself because you don't play the game overly well, like some manufacturers. Whereas, for me, a unique, not a unique perspective, but a fairly niche perspective is my question is not only what's good for the gamer, but what's also good for the viewer and me as a streamer. So I want those objectives because I want to be able to very quickly and succinctly. Now there's some really clever guys. Like there's a group called Minotaur Gaming. They're working on an augmented reality overlay. Yeah, which is, and they've got some stuff. There's an app that you can already get. I think it's called Rangefinder.
oh, that's the measuring jobby, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen
and
that.
it's not got the prettiest UI. And I fed that back to them. I was like, I don't think it's got the prettiest UI. But it's got a unique kind of way of, so you would look through your phone, and then there's a way, I've been in discussion with him, to eventually potentially integrate that into the live footage cameras. So that you could click a button and you could be like, well, there's the range and there's the range. The problem is, though, is that works quite well for. It's when you cycle back to the design aesthetic, and obviously, John, you've done loads of design work for the show, and also Wallace has done loads of design work for the show.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about
Cannot
that.
forget about Wallace.
No. But the point is, and obviously I worked at GW. Quite an interesting aspect of doing live coverage is of gaming, or even when you do battle reports, like if you're doing the handheld camera thing, a la mini war gaming, tabletop tactics, any of those sorts of things, any kind of holographic reticules, overlays, that works so well for 40k because it's like sci-fi, right? Yeah. It's like, get me that. Whereas approaching the fantasy setting of Age of Sigmar or the fantastical setting of Age of Sigmar, it's actually a much more complicated, how do we visually present this information? Because it's it's pre-tech, so
you want it to be magic and scrolls, and the aesthetic should be something. Even if it's like a city, sort of a cyberpunk, steampunky sort of city of Caradrons, you still don't want it to look overly too futuristic, right?
No, So it's interesting, and we've had this conversation many times, and people might not know that we've had this conversation many times. And we've also, and I remember that conversation about these circle rings. I remember it was you, me, James. We were at the Bloodshed in the Shire. We'd used some of the prototypes, and we were asking some of the guys who were playing, and we're like, "Can we get some feedback?" And then we were all just rowing. About different parts about it, which I think is a constructive way of having conversations. Some people don't like being challenged. I think that's not sensible. Anyway, really cool that they got made, and also I think really exciting they're being used, and I think also useful that there's also the concept that we might try and do different things. I still would like to do the neoprene mats, but with a design that fits the printed mat. If that makes sense.
Playing to it rather than just being a giant advert. Because to me, that was the worst thing. Is just putting an Honest Wargamer logo on a big mouse mat does not mean that's something people should really even consider putting on the table, in my opinion, because it just ruins the immersion.
Well, also one of the unique things that people don't know about those circular cutouts is that James does each one of them by hand in a perfect circle. Most people don't know this, but some people can draw. Some people can just draw a perfect circle, but James is able to he cuts each one individually in a perfect circle. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. He's like the Rain Man of scissors. He says it was his. Go on.
He even drew every single bit of the yellow. That's just using Sharpie, apparently.
It's so talented. Scott B says, I wasn't expecting to encounter UI chat in here. That's my job of coming here lunchtime to escape. So anyway, I super appreciative that the blog has been made.
Yes.
Really fair points, I think, good and bad about the objective markers. And I think there's an exciting... One of the conversations me and Nikos have been having is our perfect stream table. What that looks like with like a standardized table. Because again, a 6x4 board with a Realm of Battle board is how Games Workshop pictures their environment. What we should picture, I don't know if anyone's ever gone and looked up dream wargaming tables, and it's like 12 grand, and it's got like drawers in it, and it's got like a cup holder and UV light. Have you seen it?
They are great, though. Yeah,
those
ones where it's got like the dice tray bit you can shove on.
They are really great.
When we're rich, Rob, because this is such a money spinner for us, right? We can each have one in our mansions.
I've already got 7. I use them for woodworking. No, but actually,
table.
Yeah, because one of the interesting things when you go play like an actual game at a store, or better when you go play at Bad Moon or Firestorm 4s, those are the 2 examples I can think of where they have a sideboard area.
It's game changing.
It's game changing, but I also want like a front lip, so like a foot to half a foot in front of the board, where I can put some like dice and a couple of bits here and there.
Yes.
Like leaning to the side isn't too bad, but I think a little bit at the front would be good. Age of Sigmar less so, although I wish there were more cards in Age of Sigmar. I know that there are some people who make these like off the back of a truck. Nod, nod, wink, wink. Don't DM me. I won't send you the info. But like like when you've got like your spell cards, they don't make fucking spell cards, which is obnoxious. Like I want my 6 spell cards. I want the 3 that I play, and I want to put them down. It's just way easier. Yeah.
It's one of those things that I find is really useful just as a prompt, even if you're not referring to it every time. Like in 40k, having that for stratagems, without that, I'd forget the stratagems.
Yeah, right.
Or you've got to get the book out and go to page 72, and then you've got to scroll back to the page you were holding open because you needed it, and it's not worth it. It slows the game down, right?
Loads. And I think just being able to pass over your like little spell card and just be like, so I know for a long time Tony Moore, and I know there are other people who've done this, but Tony's always put all of his spells on little spell cards, and it's just
little Magic the Gathering cards.
And it's also it's super weird to have gone from Warhammer Fantasy Battle, where those spell cards were always available. They're available in 40k as well. Like the psychic
it's that consistency, right? You'd expect a company to do across their ranges, like the fact that you don't get datasheet cards for 40k, but you get them for Age of Sigmar every time, is the same kind of reverse. You're just like, but I would buy them for every army I have.
Exactly. Like
it just makes no sense.
There are War Scroll cards, but not spell cards, and I less need to know the War Scroll cards often more than the spell. And haven't the new Cowells got them in the starter set? I don't know that, actually. I'm going to go check that out. Thank you.
Be cool if they did. If they've got a lot of magic, that might be their logic to it. I suppose the closest we get to that is the Endless Spells have a War Scroll card. And that's as close as you get, right?
The Endless Spells had War Scroll cards, yes, but not like your Battle Tome spells. And I want all the cards as well, K-Dread. I couldn't agree with you. I've got a little tip, actually, about the objective markers, if anyone's interested. Having seen a few games played and played quite a few games with them myself, I've got like a hot tip for using them to your advantage in the gaming setting. So one of the really good things about that article is it discusses how there's no worry about where you're going to have to be, like how many models are on the objective, right? But one of the little things that I use, hot tip, Tibbles, you saucy dog. One of the one of the bits is if you imagine playing any objective, any scenario where there's two objectives or there's an objective in the center in front of you, right?
Yeah.
The key part, especially if you've got shooting units or wizards, this is key. When in your movement phase, if you move your shooting units or your wizards so that their range, so like let's say it's 18 inches for the shooting or whatever it might be, is just clipping the back part of that objective. My side of the board, I move my models forward so that the range of my range threats clips just the very back
So
side.
if this is your end of the map,
Yeah.
you'd want it so it just clips the top here.
Perfect.
Just.
Right? Just. Because when they eventually move on to that objective, that is going to be the furthest away that they are going to try. Sometimes they'll try and sit at that maximum range. Now, that's actually way more difficult to do when you don't have the circles. You're like measuring it, and then you're like, okay, and then there.
Am I within range? Am I just within? Oh,
Yeah.
Whereas
it's super easy, and I've played a couple of games like that, and I've used the circles as kind of like my range projection. Yeah, I've measured how far they can go and stuff, and I've and then I've thrown a couple of units onto the objectives early, some trash units. So that means they have to try and contest, which means I can bring my firepower to bear. So it's a nice little tip. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think it makes you start to think about how important your ranges are and the effective range of something, and it's then becomes this kind of they don't want to move their stuff in because they don't want to get it shot. So then that unit's either wasted or doing something else, right?
Yeah,
and it becomes kind of that kind of manoeuvring around each other thing, which is what the game should be more about.
Maybe. Well, that's our opinion. Doesn't have to be what everyone thinks. But that's my hot tip. And the first time I ever did that, I felt like a tactical genius when it really wasn't. It's not really that clever a thing. And then the person who I was playing had to move their units onto those objectives at that exact point, and then I looked like a genius because I knew that I was in range on the next turn to to take advantage of that, right? So it's one of those things, and I reckon that there'll be more eventually, ways of screening or controlling or all sorts of different bits. I like it when people around the rim, they put their instead of putting their bases just touching the very edge, they put their base just over the edge. So even if the opponent piles in, they still haven't piled into the objective. So it's a super simple way. Am I making sense? Yeah.
And it requires a lot less constant measuring and faffing around with that. It becomes a certainty rather than kind of there's that almost constant kind of reassurance to each other. Like that guy's within 3 inches, would you say? And it's that kind of to and fro that you don't need potentially, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, it's really good, but it's really nice. And again, I don't want to bang on about a product that we make it's a sales pitch because it's not meant to be. It's just meant to be again.
It's excitement more than anything, right?
Well, and if
We're
you can do
helping.
I mean, I want everyone to use them just because when I live stream games, I'm just it's the fucking easiest thing in the world to assess now. I'm just also for the viewers. One of the things, again, I know Scott B, you're trying to get away from work, and I'm sorry. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is the UI. So when viewers come and watch a live stream game, I want them to be able to understand everything.
The minute they tune in, right?
The minute I want them to know whose turn it is, which we've done with the red-blue system. I want to know what the total score is and what they've scored per turn. What secondaries are available, and then what the board state is on the board. Nick did some really clever things with the soul system, so the light up soul system. I think I'd like to put the soul system on top of the circular objectives.
Yes, I think the two combined makes currently the perfect solution to what we can do.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you actually, you and Nick, later on in the week, but I was thinking we should find some gems or something equally Age of Sigmar-y. That we can light up as opposed to just the souls, some sort of
crystals.
Yeah, this is basically.
I know a guy that. Knows
I know a guy who loves crystals.
I just sort of put my mouth a little bit. Sorry.
So MJ Pig says, I first saw it used on the Oswald game when a player was it Laurie circled his strides around the objective to keep his opponent off. Yeah, which was just really it was just he just did it so well. It's cool. Rob Warhammer meets design is not a problem. Oh, good. Cheers, copy. I know a girl that loves crystals at the Honest War game. Me too, unfortunately. Right. Anyway, John, what did you say you've been doing some hobby or not?
I've not. I had a bit of a low energy bit for my hobby, so I've not really done too much. I did just start building last night. The Orc Boss Zagstruck, the jump pack Stormboy chap.
Yeah.
So I'm finally getting him built, and I've forgotten how much I hate building resin.
Oh, the worst.
I've never cleaned so much of a model. I think I might have just clipped off half the model as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's
So
they're not
which
nice, are they?
what's spiky and what's just flash? It's just like, oh no. But yeah, I had a good run before this. So I did quite a lot of the building for my Skaven army, but it's hard finding the justification when I'm just like, well, when am I going to get them on the table?
Well,
But
so
it's cool.
the question to you and the Twitch chat actually is now obviously GW started putting out their teaser / preview / informative / non-informative articles on the community site. Has that kicked your mojo? I know for me, maybe that's because it's my job, but maybe also just because I'm excited about it. I know for me, it's been an exciting time to see those articles coming up again. I like that there's these new things that exist.
Yeah.
So are you excited about that or not?
I think what tends to encourage me along is, one, if it's something new and exciting that's either me or one of my opponents will be playing, or if I've got something new and exciting that I want to try myself. So without those two bits, it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm feeling a bit kind of, I'm not uninspired, but I just feel kind of like I have little to focus on, because normally my kind of hobby mojo is from like, right, I need a new unit that I want to paint for this game on Friday, so I'm going to get that done in the next week. And without that to focus on, it's just kind of like, yep. And having just an entire army to do from scratch with my Skaven, it's cool, but it's just like just slowly chugging along at its own pace, because there isn't that motivation, because there's an end game kind of in 2 weeks' time I'm playing with it. And I think that's what more encourages me along.
Yeah, I can understand. Something that I hope will encourage you along is in the chat, our friend of the show, a little bit of a legend, Smorgan.
Which one? Which
Smorgana. Well, I think it's Thirsty Smorgan, but he's just saying that we're doing some colouring in with your printouts
excellent.
for crafts this weekend. Do you want to
Yes.
tell us?
That's a good point, actually. So at the beginning of the lockdown, I started putting up all of the Age of Sigmar faction artwork as just line art that you could print out and let your kids colour in or colour in yourself. And this week, because I found the Squigtober artwork that I'd lost 2 years ago because I'm an idiot and I don't actually check my backup folders, I found them. So I've put up 28 different squigs that you can colour in for free. So,
which is awesome. Can you put the link in the chat?
I can. Let me just find that.
You should let some people know as well. John, you did this at the beginning of the lockdown, because we're on day 58. Wow.
Oh God, yeah.
I know. So you did this at the beginning, which I thought was really nice. A lot of people were doing some really upbeat, positive stuff at the beginning. And it's not that people are weary now, but people are weary, I think.
It's hard to maintain kind of positivity if it's not your normal go-to.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have to either. Like, if anyone's feeling that like, don't worry about it. Like, if you want to have a grumble, come here and have a grumble. Like, it's all good. But I think the fact that Smorgs' family and other young ladies, fellas, or even grown-up adults are doing some colouring ins. Have you had some people colour them in and send you pictures?
Yes. So at the beginning, I had some great examples of like really outlandish colour choices, and I was just like, these are great, because those kids are just going, I'm having fun. Here's a colour I want to do. Rather than it being, it's got to be this green because it's a dark angel. And it was really nice to see kids painting and colouring in Space Marines, demons, you name it, in bright pink, bright yellows, and just going, having fun. And that's what it was about.
Well, some people are coming out of lockdown. In some places, all restrictions are being lifted slightly. And Smorgs is saying that he's going to Casa Hoenn this weekend, see the new puppy, play Necromunda campaign.
Necromunda and a puppy. Oh no, that's not fair.
I know. So for some people in the world, you're able to do things, and some people are not able to do things. So, but for anyone who can, I'm really happy for you. But yeah. Also, big shout out to Bradley. So I think it's cool that you've done that, John. Thanks for doing that for people.
It felt the nice thing to do, and the artwork was sat there anyway, so it's just like I may as well. So
Well,
I think that's always kind of nice to do something to give back as well, because at the end of the day, a lot of the artwork stuff that I've done for the show has been just done for the betterment of everyone, really, to make things look pretty.
Yeah.
Not because I fancy doing it.
Well, no, but I think like we've talked about this before. Sinise's memes, Tristan's memes, your pictures, like they've added to the kind of Gestalt. Did you see Wolf Priest's put together of me and Nathan as tech players yesterday? I enjoyed that. That was fun. Can I tell you about something that happened to me yesterday?
Yeah.
Also, big shout out to Pete who says I was positive until I started painting this loon shrine. Why are there so many fucking mushrooms?
That's why mine's still grey plastic.
Also, my man Bradley has been so Jack Baker in the chat. Guys, it feels brilliant getting a real game in after the lockdown. There's light at the end of the tunnel. He's in the half of Australia where I think it's and the Kiwi guys, they've got they're laughing. They've had anyway. England is not in that position, so. If you're English,
specifically England.
Yeah, specifically stay the fuck home. And if you don't think you should stay the fuck home, you're wrong. Stay the fuck home. Right. Yes, Randy. I really like the Silent King too. So my thing that happened yesterday was a while ago. I hopefully still in there. The Wargaming Dad. A while ago, I got made an admin of. An Age of Sigmar group, and it's got 22,000 members. Now,
oh yes, I know the one. Yep, the Cinderfall one.
Yes. Now, the one that I would never make me an admin of fucking anything. I would just like that said straight off the bat. Yeah, right. I wouldn't number one, I wouldn't reply to anything. Number two, don't give me great responsibility ever or great power. So none of those things, but I was given it, and then because because normally most of the mods are Aussie, or I think he's actually got round the world mods. Sometimes something pops up and almost always. So what happens is, if you're a mod of a group, I don't know if you guys have seen, what happens is you get a notification, it says someone's reported a thing, and obviously I never I don't actively go and look through. I think if you want to be a really serious mod, I think you can jump onto the group, you can click all of the fucking buttons, see post history, all sorts of shit. Yeah. None of which, but one of the so I don't do that. I just whenever I avoid that. But when I get a notification and it says someone's reported something, I click it. Now, 98% of the time, I'll click the button and it's already been deleted or removed or a mod's dealt with it, whatever it might be. But sometimes it comes down to me to be the arbiter of justice, which is fun. Yeah. No, so some of you may or may not know, 18 to 22, I was a doorman. I've had some, and then I've been a nightclub promoter ever since. So I've had some very funny conversations with people outside. But most often than not, conflict resolution, I think, is actually something I'm pretty good at when I really want to try my hand at it. So, but this is weird because it's the internet. You don't know anyone. So it's a bit like being a doorman, and you just don't give a shit when they're around with each other. You just stop it like it's not important because you're not emotionally invested. But sometimes I've been emotionally invested in something, and I wouldn't want anyone getting in my face about it. I don't know. Anyway, so the situation that happened yesterday was someone posted something, and then it was about the Warhammer Old World. And when I first reacted to the Warhammer Old World, and before I go on with this story, John,
yes,
I think that the Warhammer Old World stuff is going to create a divided fantasy community, which I don't overly love. I like big togetherness, and I think that that's sad. And I'm not super excited about everyone feeling a bit bummed out or being. This post eventually created a row. Obviously, I think it's one of those divisive things. I'm excited about it coming back. I
think it'll get a lot of people that are only playing Age of Sigmar because all their mates are playing it. If they were really kind of set in their ways and wanting to play the old world stuff, they'll be almost like the heresy guys, that they stick to their own little circle, which is a shame, right? Because it's people out of the pool of players.
Yes, and I think anyone anyone being negative like that, it's anyway. I didn't like it. My point was, so he posted up he posted up a thing about the
It's about the
old
Bears,
world.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about the Bears. I can't remember what it was, but he just descended into just like horrible name calling, and I was like, "You're all adults, stop it." But it was a little bit unnecessary, so I just deleted the post. And the guy that originally posted, because again, I'm not the best mod in the world. I saw the guy that had posted, read some of his replies, and I was like, "Well, that's bang out of order." Yeah, so I just fucking blocked deleted the post and kicked the guy. I was like, "You should be that rude on the internet. That's fucking horrible. You're not posting up a picture of like a gaunt summer and being like, please comment, or like asking a question like, what's the narrative of X, which is what I think a group about Warhammer should be about, and literally nothing else." He then started messaging me and sent me some messages, and then he was like, "Look, this other guy's been a knob. He hasn't deleted these things, or he said this horrible stuff." And I was like, "Oh well, I'll make sure I go delete that fella as well, I guess." And I just wanted to talk about it because it was one of those really odd things. It's a hobby. It's super weird. It's a space. I don't really want to be the hobby police at all. I don't want to be involved. I think if you see two people just being dicks to each other, just be like, "Well, you two take it out." Because my Dorman train, I'm just like, "You two just fuck off outside. As long as you're not here, yeah, I don't care. Just go the fuck away." And it was a really interesting experience because I've very rarely actively taken a role in any modding, is what I'm trying to get at. And I hope the response was fine. If it wasn't, I truly don't care about those two individuals because they were being knobs, and I think stop being a knob. But anyway, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, it just shows how emboldened people can be on the internet where they feel there's not consequences to what they say, which is a shame, really.
Yeah, I guess so. And I mean, like, look, I'm a mouthy wanker sometimes. Like, I don't mind.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I don't mind people pointing that finger at me and saying that. That's fair. And if people think I was being disruptive in a community and doing the same thing, then I would feel absolutely fair if someone admonished me for it. So I think you live by what you say and you die by what you say. But it's just an interesting thing. It was a weird moment. I was like, oh God, ice bears. I didn't know. But it does go to show that I think that it will chop the community up a little bit, or what might cause some friction.
It's like anything, I suppose. Like you get those responses, like you see, like when Aussie at Bone Reaper dropped. People that had that expectation for what the old world faction they thought it was going to be would be, and then it was completely different. There's that disappointment, and I think there's that reaction now that people are going, "No, it's gone. Stay away. We don't want the old world anymore. It's gone." But on the flip side, there's people that are like, "I want to dip back into that." Like to me, I got back into the hobby as Age of Sigmar dropped, so I kind of went, "Oh, I was about to build a Skaven army. This is what am I doing? It's now 8 million different factions." So I was really kind of taken out of it. So now I'm looking at it as kind of an opportunity to build something that you can't get in Age of Sigmar, but not to replace Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. The thing is, by the way, this was a Facebook group, not anything else. So I just thought maybe we should set up an Honest Wargamer Facebook group. We do the Discord, but maybe a Facebook group would be cool. I don't fucking know. Like well, let's do one. Let's see. But the point is, we'll do that later.
I'll add it to the list.
Just I want only 11 people ever allowed in the group at one time. That's it. But what's interesting is then MJ Pixies is just talking about modding on the channel because we haven't really ever had to moderate the channel.
No, I've probably had to tell one or two people ever in the kind of course of 2.5 years of being a mod, just to not be so negative, and that was about it. Because I can remember one time this guy was literally just like, "Blah," and it was just like, "Can you ease it off, please?" Yeah. But otherwise, everyone's very positive. I find. I think it's the community that
not
are attracted to what we do. They're here for fun, right?
I'd say positive is true, but I'd also say like they're just fair and balanced. That's how
exactly.
I feel. That's what I feel the Honest Wargaming community is. And also we do have some terrifying mods in Tomb King, Tristan, Sneeze, and yourself, because Cavalier is how I would describe our moderators, and therefore you don't tend to fuck around with people who already got nothing left to live for or lose. Nothing left to lose. Someone
in the chat has just asked Stompers for 500 points and the word Astartes. Oh man.
All those are allowed. All of those are allowed. Also, big shout out to Also, big shout out to my man Phil Kelly, who apparently watches the stream. Just saying. I just found that
he's
out.
my hero. He
Found
is my
out,
hero.
I found out yesterday. He's like, I won't tell you how I found it out. That's an interesting one. Anyway, I just brought that up. If anyone's got any questions about any of that or anything else, I'd be interested. But like, that was just it's hobby related. It's hobby adjacent. And like, it was just before the show yesterday. And truthfully, and then I did a post in the same group, and I was just like, everyone, like, you don't have to be positive, but just use it as a place to be creative and responsible. I personally don't mind a bit of back and forth, but I don't think when it gets to like name calling, especially about something as pedantic as ice bears, it's just like whatever. Like calm down.
I think a lot of hobbyists get very passionate about the hobby, but also I think a lot of people forget this one crucial thing about whether it's rules, the design of a model, a paint scheme. It's all subjective. I'm actually quite all right when there's a new model range that comes out and I go, they're cool, but I don't love them, so I'm not going to buy them, and that's fine. It doesn't take away from anyone else's joy, right? Like Ossiot Reapers. I can pass completely on them.
A good example would be
It's cool.
Techless, right? I think Techless looks fucking objectively awful.
Oh,
yeah,
I can't stand it. But if someone else wants to paint it and it's great,
yeah.
power to them.
And Sinise picked up on me the other day. I was like, the best TV show in the world is Battlestar Galactica. Unequivocally, if you think something different, you're wrong.
So say we all.
Yeah, but I tend to say things like that. And his point on Sunday, and it's a really fair point, is obviously that isn't true. That's my opinion. That's
You say
my
it with a wink
feeling.
and a glimmer in your eye, though. That's the thing. You say it a lot of the time to it. You like antagonising people.
I believe that like people believe ghosts are real. Yeah, I'm like, it's a fact, but I do admit that it's not a fact. It's an opinion. And so
it's actually Space Above and Beyond is actually the best science fiction TV program ever because you are a tank.
Yeah, that is great. It's Babylon 5. Oh, Randy, yes.
Yes.
Oh, I live for the one. I die for the one. Fucking love you, Randy.
God.
But
Space Aragorn.
We just found out Smallgood's bear power ratings. My bear power ratings: 1 sun bear, 2 Asiatic black bear, 3 speckled bear. That's actually something. You could paint up those ice bears as different types of bears, right? Every other bear sucks.
Oh man, you could paint the bears as Pokemon bears, like Teddy Ursa. The best. Could really offend people. That'd be brilliant.
MJ Pegasus is Farscape is also great. Firefly is also great. Star Wars Rogue One is awful. Correct.
No, that's wrong, Rob. I believe that's subjective too.
I want to do an entire show about this where I just anyway.
The honest sci-fi reviewer. That's what it should be called.
I'm just going to start a different show where for 1 hour a day I talk about how bad the Star Wars Rogue One film is and commit to it. But I don't want to do that thing, where like the enemy lives inside your head rent free. I'm not letting that happen. I want to forget it existed. But my point, well, not my point. The thing I was trying to express was,
I don't want to see your point, Rob. Not
again.
again.
I think Techless looks rubbish. But other people don't think Techless looks rubbish. But you should be allowed to express, I think he looks rubbish, without, like, someone who thinks he looks great. Like, if I think something looks great, and someone tells me it doesn't look great, I don't give a fuck that you don't think it looks great.
Yeah.
I like it. Like,
I also find sometimes we get these preview images and videos and stuff, and the paint scheme that Games Workshop themselves have done doesn't sell it to me. But then the minute I see someone else's rendition of it, completely different opinion. I still don't love it, but I'm like, well, that looks really cool, actually. That's changed it a little bit. So,
yeah. Anyway, so I don't know if that helps anyone with like their perspective. I don't think people like you're all adults. You don't really need any help with your perspective on these things. But it was an interesting one for me. It was I liked. To be the proper moderator of a 22,000 person Facebook group, like those guys are heroes because by and large, while a bunch of the comments I think are fairly hyperbolic and they don't really have any substance to them when they're like, someone's like, I want a really good army, and someone's like, let me tell you, get some blood reavers on the go, you'll be smashing face. Yeah, and everyone else is like, that's wrong. Like So Like there tends to be a lot of dross written in there, but it doesn't mean it's not also a great place for conversation, great place to show your hobby, a great place to connect with people. So those groups are safe spaces, for lack of a better word, for the hobby to exist. And I think the people who do it for free to create those environments are amazing people, and they deserve their love, because I'm a bad example of someone who really doesn't help do it well. So I don't know if that's helpful to anyone. So that's because every metal style is not the best style for particular aesthetics. I agree with that. Talking about painting, talking about debate. How do you debate with a female to give you her number of Warhammer isn't her bag? Female to give you her number of Warhammer isn't her bag. Does he mean? How do you tell a woman? Does he mean?
I read that like a Ferengi was saying it.
Yeah,
Female. Oh, jeez.
Maybe he thinks he's Yoda. Pete Pratt says the models are so dynamic and detailed in all 3 dimensions now that often a flat photo just doesn't do them justice. I'm open to textures being better in the flesh. I agree with that as well. That's why I like the video previews. I think the little 360 spins tend to do some really nice stuff. I bought all these Blood Reavers for nothing. W Facebook.
Oh, bless.
I think what Powell is saying is, if you've met a young lady, and we covered this on the show. Do you remember I went on a date and I covered it on the show ages ago? If you meet a young lady, at what point in your life do you start explaining to her about the hobby? Or if she asks how much you spent, how likely are you to tell her the truth and the answer? John, what about you?
Yep. Well, I was quite all right with that personally. It was quite an early thing because she knew she met me because I was playing Pokemon at work. So it was just like, she started talking. So I always had that in of the nerdy stuff was always acceptable. But I think you can't really hide yourself. If that's such a big part of you as a person, if you hide it, they're not actually getting to meet the real you.
Thankfully, I'm really low key about it. Basically,
I know, right? Yeah. Well, don't you hide all your Warhammer in the studio, Rob? Isn't that true?
I was building a stomper last night at home on the sofa. No, not true at all. Also, when people ask me what I do for a job, like it's pretty early on in a date or a relationship where someone goes, "So what do you do for work?" I can't do like a Chandler Bing and no one really knows, and I'm like, I just say analytics, and they're like, "What about?" I'm like, paradigms. Yeah, like
Jesus Christ.
Let's see what everyone is saying in the chat about this. After you are married, says Chris Danish, just hook him in. Just be like, you're fucked now. You got to stay. Nico says, blurt it out all straight away. Couldn't agree with that at all. I agree with that loads. First date, says Smorgan. One of the... If I can give any advice, not that I should, because A, I'm terrible at dating, and B, my track record proves that. But if there's one thing I've learned is that being passionate about something that you love is genuinely something someone, a partner or someone you're trying to date will find interesting, or they will find that passion quite exciting. For me personally, whenever I've dated someone and they've been really passionate about whatever it is that they do, I'm always interested in someone being so passionate about something they want to tell me about it. It means that there's some sort of zest for life that's quite exciting, right? Like, yeah. I don't know why this is this show. This is a weird show, but anyway. Yeah. Yeah. But being passionate and excited about this thing that you love and expressing it, I think will be something that they'll be more impressed by than they're not. And if they're not impressed by it, then they're fucking awful people. Like, tell them to go get lost. Like, because it's a wicked thing, right?
Exactly. Like, when I first met my now wife, she was really excited that I was passionately trying to start a comic book career. Yes, it wasn't exactly an easy thing to do, but the fact that I was so passionate and doing something showed that I actually cared and wanted to do stuff, right? Rather than just like, I go to work 9 to 5, I sit in an office, and then I come home and I stare at the TV. Is that even being a person?
I mean, that's some people's lives, and if you like it, that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think passion is really important. MAX James says it's in my will that my friend will sell all my 40k and give my wife the proceeds minus the seller's fee. Then and only then will she know what I spent. Yeah. Bon Clodger says, been with my missus for 5 years. She knows I'm a nerd, but still knows nothing about the hobby. Interesting. The bookcase in my living room is riddled with eels and space marines. It gives it away pretty quickly. Yeah. And T-Man Cash is just giving us some true. Just be you, man. Just be you.
I don't think that's a bad thing. It's like, if I had to hide all the Warhammer, I don't think I'd have anything in the flat. That's all it is at the moment, is Warhammer and comics. It's everywhere. That's why I've got the background fuzzed out now, because otherwise you'd see the piles of it.
Good. I kind of want to see, but we'll leave it for today. Also, Canaba TV says Scrivo definitely looks cooler and meaner with no hair. There you go. You've got that kind of like, football vibe going on, John. I think. Oh, there's some hobby in the background. You can see it.
There you go.
Toon King Tristan says, my roommates once had a big party and I wasn't interested, so I set up my painting desk. All of a sudden, there were about 10 people hanging around me asking questions. Yeah, absolutely. I've heard Benjamin Sever actually paints in coffee shops, yeah, while at the same time somehow playing a violin. Like, that's in a chord suit.
But this is where he's working, actually serving in the coffee shop at the same time.
Same time, same thing. Randy says,
I miss him.
Yeah, I miss him. I miss Randy. I miss everyone. Darren. I miss so many people. Owen. Nick. All the WS10 guys. Like, my wife doesn't care at all, but she's learnt what all my Tomb Kings units are called. Yeah. That's sweet.
Yeah, I think that is part of a healthy relationship, personally.
Bob Clodger says she does love my Maw Crusher though. She's a massive WoW nerd, and she calls him Thick Deathwing.
Yes. So I have that with Scrivelet, because although she's dipped into the hobby, she's really big on World of Warcraft. So every time she sees like Nagash, she's like, "Oh, that's," and she says what the Warcraft kind of equivalent is, and I'm like, no.
But there are some similarities, right?
She's like, that's Kel'Thuzad. I'm like, who?
It's like him, basically.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
There's a room in my house which is my war room. It's pretty just accepted that it's a thing when we bought the house. That's good. That's nice. That's a very accepting wife. Can Have a TV says, my wife has been spending time in the basement to play Zoom board games, and she immediately has to have a shower afterwards.
Oh man.
That's great. Yeah, I think just be loud and proud. You just. But as to the price, how much you've spent, do not be loud and proud. Be a sneaky, underhand, horrible, like duplicitous con man about all of it.
Have your own pocket money. I think that's the safest way to approach it.
Is it?
Don't take from the food budget, Rob.
Thankfully, my food budget is 0. Like,
I know.
so,
I know.
and I wouldn't be able to. But I've got a stomper now, thanks to Randy.
Yeah, Randy.
So I built something. Yeah. That's not a picture. I'm going to call it Randy. My stomper's called Randy. That's what it's going to be called. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. I was going Randy Savage. That's going to be his name every time he fires. I'm like, go on, Randy Savage. Fucking shoot your fucking big gun.
Oh, that's going to be dreadful to play against. I'm in. I'll bring my stomp. Someone behind me.
MJ Peg says, my girlfriend likes to read my list so she knows what to buy me for gifts. That's cool. That's really nice. Canhammer says, my wife thinks my sponsors are giving me most of my stuff. Oh, my God. That wouldn't be true. I'll be quiet. Mrs. Sorry again, isn't interested in the hobby, but lets me fill the garage with my hobby. See, that's nice. Yeah. That's nice. See, John, this only works until the point where she asks you, hey, you know all that money you've saved up, can I lend some of it to get this? And you just stand there nervously sweating. Interesting one. We should just do a show about like the wives of our lives. I hadn't expected that to come up. I think to answer James's question, just be loud and proud. Just get it out there.
I think it's just healthier that way.
Yeah, I talked about this again a couple of years ago. I talked about being on a first date, and me explaining what I did to her and how excited I was and how passionate I was, and she took it really well. the story, not anything else. Then that's what she said, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it went really well, and we kind of kicked off the be loud and proud thing. Maybe this is the time to let everyone else in your life know that this is what you do. There's a whole bunch of people trapped in at home right now who've never had a hobby, whereas us wargamers are in the best place to have
Prepped for it.
we're prepped for it. Like, we could get people into the hobby right now. You used to be like, the people are bored at home. It's like, have you ever read this book? Or do you like the idea of painting these models? Maybe this is the time we could recruit some new people, which
Exactly.
is
It's
fun.
like, so you liked watching Game of Thrones,
Huh?
and you like dragons. So here you go, have this giant dragon and paint it.
Yeah. Wargaming wags. Yeah, believing your wife is dumb enough to get cheated. What optimistic. We're stupid, is what he's saying. And hook and pin in the chat. A lady. So, because your partner might not be a lady, your partner might be a boy, because you might be a lady, or you might be a boy, or you might be the cornucopia of all the things I won't get into. Big thumbs for your lives, whatever that you want them to be. So yeah, whoever is in your life doesn't have to be a lady. Could be anyone. Queekster says, I already got 5 people to the game through the new game I am playing, Rob. I wonder what Queekster's playing during this pandemic. Oh, that's interesting. My employees wish me luck before I go to an event when events were a thing. That's sweet. That's really sweet. John, you work in the toy shop. Do you ever tell people about events? Do you ever tell...
Well, 3 out of my 4 team members are hobbyists, and I may have recruited all of them. So you surround yourself with people you like and trust, right? But more importantly, it's because then they actually can sell the stuff as well.
I wonder if anyone has ever gone to work with a trophy that they've won at an event. Like, you take it in the next
Put
day.
it on your desk.
Yeah, it's put it on your desk and be like, bam, that's for me. I'm a hero. I wonder if anyone has ever done that. Have you ever done that, John? I guess you have to win
Yes.
trophies.
Yeah,
Have you?
You mean trophies? Oh, hang on, Rob.
Oh,
Do
my
you want to see
God.
a trophy?
Don't want
Let me
to see
dust
any
it off.
trophies.
There you go. Look, I won second place. I was only beaten by a certain other orc player.
You can name them.
I've blanked his name. This is embarrassing.
That's fine.
Simon Predis. There you go.
Oh, nice.
Aha. Yeah. And the only reason I lost was because I had to play him round 2.
Randy said I showed my guys the belt I lost. That's good. I asked Amy to wave me off in the morning with a white hanky as if I'm going to war. I think based on the amount of drinking I've seen at events, it wouldn't be a bad idea to write a will and testament before some people go to events, especially after the lockdown. I'm worried about the first major event after a lockdown. Like, I expect some alcoholic beverages to be consumed in quantities that might shock people. So there we go.
I think it's going to be an exciting one, right? Because there'll be lots of high energy, excited people, and it means that they might peak a bit early as well. Sleeping under the table, round 3.
Always sleep under the table. Tristan says the boys at the welding shop were very impressed when he took some of his trophies in, I think. And I'm already day drinking in preparation for this propagation. Well done. Rubber Squirrel, I had to fill out a getting know you thing on a work intel site covered in pictures of hobby and giving out awards. That's cool. I wonder if there's any employers in the chat. And I know that there are some people who are like quite well versed in like employment stuff. But are you more likely to hire someone, John? Obviously for your job, because
It actually helps in my
you
job.
run your store. Yeah, well, it helps in your job. But if someone put in their interest that they were a hobbyist, I do wonder like obviously for you, so most people don't know you run a toy shop. Obviously, it's a huge bonus for people who are hobbyists, right? Or not in some cases. Can it be too serious?
It's actually quite harmful for me at times because I'm essentially staring at a wall of it all day, every day. And the new releases come in, I'm like, ooh, I could justify buying that. And, ooh, I'm going to start that as an army. And it's like, no, if it's quiet, all I'm doing is staring at it, planning what army I'm next going to get that I don't really need.
Fair point. Fair point. I wonder if, like, an employer, like, when I used to hire a lot of staff, like, when I ran big nightclubs, really, it was whether or not they could speak intelligently while half drunk, as most of them were morning through to night. So there wasn't really much else that they needed to have about them. Although I did tend to hire quite dynamic individuals, as you tend to get for clubbing stuff, or arseholes, another way to describe it, and I include myself in that. Horatio says, I'm a surgeon. One of my ways back into the hobby was I needed to show I could do fine stuff with my hands, so it's on my CV. That's really interesting. That's super, super interesting. Queekster says, I've been told it's a huge plus. When he's
so if you imagine if you go to team events, you're working with others, coordinating and stuff. If you're running an event, there's that kind of organization and planning and commitment. It's all positives for if you're trying to get employed, I suppose.
I can't see. I remember a long time ago I did a podcast with Scrubby and Wells, and if you haven't listened to the Scrubby and Wells podcast, you can. But Scrubby and Wells was talking about, and he's been an advisor to a president, obviously the last one, not this current yokel, but he's done quite well in life, is what I'm trying to get at, and he pins it all on him playing wargaming at a young age because it gave him lots of skills and outlets and outputs. And I do wonder if people put wargaming on their CV. I wonder if people hide it, and I wonder if people put it on their CV and are like loud and proud about it, because it might be a big bonus to being employed. Really, I hadn't thought about that ever, but it does have so many like passionate requisites, right? That you need. Walmart says, when people have an interesting hobby on their CV and are passionate about it, it's a good sign because they are most of the time more driven, because they don't just need money for food, because they need a job, but they want a job because they want to do that hobby. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that at all. Our team building evening at work, I got my team playing Captain Sonar. It went down really well and still gets mentioned, says Winner Dave. That's rad. I hadn't thought about this at all. Pete says, running events in the Irish community qualifies me for a job in herding feral cats. It does. Like, there's some serious people skills in running an event. Serious people skills. Smorgan, don't hire people who are slaves to their jobs. Well-rounded people with interests and hobbies get a big tick from me. There we go. I ran away a day, and wargaming was an example I used for my division of gaming work, relevant skills outside of work. Man, this is stuff I hadn't expected. I always put chess and strategy games on my CV. Ooh, chess and strategy. Is that because chess is like the intelligent version of wargaming, right? Yeah, it's like, I play chess.
It's boring looking though. You don't paint the models.
You could paint them.
Oh, imagine that. That'd be great.
Yeah, you could build a wicked chess set out of Warhammer models, couldn't you? A king, a queen. You could have a great time. You could do like an undead set. You could just have like
clan rat pawns.
That'd look cool. Vermin Lord King. Yeah, you could do that. That'd be fun. Because I'm a chess player, but yeah. Sorry. All right. Well, it's been, unless anyone's got any questions, it's the we've hit our time today. I don't mind staying for longer if anyone wants to have a chat about something. But I'm gonna quickly show you guys the office. You guys see?
Oh, please! I want to see what you've done.
Well, you can't see it yet. I'm basically, this back table is all I've got to clear out now, and then that's all the armies away. That's all the kit away for live streaming, and then there's the back room, which I need to attack, which will take me several hours as well. But once that gets cleared out, I'm going to be able to set up some models on that table and do some filming, which will be cool. But
nice.
just having it as a neater, and also potentially have a better backdrop for my shot, because this doesn't look very professional.
I like the bottle of wine in the background. That's my favourite.
This is actually, I'll have you know, this is an award I got from the Blood Tithe International Team event. So talking about trophies. So there we go. So best podcast and channel, which I got from the wonderful Mark. So there you go. A bottle of wine. I don't drink wine or drink at all. So I don't know what to do with it, because I imagine it's an incredibly fancy
Just put it in your
bottle of
wine cellar. Just put it in your wine cellar, mate.
I will do that. I've got a wine rack. So if I keep it, won't it get like better? That's what happens, right? Like fancier.
The flavours will develop and change.
Yeah, it's from the Peninsula de Setúbal. I'm trying to work out where it's from. It's got a lot of De Santos in. Maybe Brazil. Produced and bottled by Portugal. It's Portuguese
Ah,
wine.
Portuguese. Nice.
Yeah, I'm often drinking Portuguese wine. Do you have a roof yet, Rob? Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. No! There's the roof, everyone, for you to see. Not the best, but one day.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
It's not gotten any worse. That's a positive, right?
that is actually a huge positive. So, can we talk about Soulbound? We are going to talk about Soulbound, but you can go and watch back the amazing show that Dan Unsupervised did with Tristan, Denise, and the Rage Sigmar guys, and listen to that back. That's actually my afternoon
It's
listening.
really good. It was no spoilers, but I was in tears laughing at those guys.
There you go. So go listen to that. I hope that that's going to continue. We'll see if it is. Is there any dust on it? On my wine, I think. Yeah, but you should go. So Soulbound, go listen to that show and watch those guys. I think there's a few shows and podcasts that are going to set that up. And if Dan's doing it for the channel, I don't think I need to as well. But that could be really fun, right? Yes? No?
Yes, I think so. Well, there was talk as well about doing something else similar on the show as well. I think Dan's planning to run a separate thing. I think it was the 40k stuff.
It is. Yeah, he is. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I've had a question if that's black mould on the ceiling. It's dark mould, so I don't know what the difference is. I reckon that'll be fine.
It's
hashtag,
water-based, I think.
hashtag concern, says Spencer. Where can we find the Soulbound show? You should just be able to watch it back on Twitch, right? It's not a podcast yet, John.
It's here.
Are we going to turn it into a podcast? We should.
Probably should. I think it will translate because there's not much camera work. It's only poor Dan on camera for that one, so it translates quite well as a podcast, I think.
We should do that. We'll do that later for you guys and put that as a podcast as well. The hole in the roof isn't getting any bigger is a low bar for positivity. From where the show started out, that's great. We're doing fine.
Yeah.
You guys need
Yeah,
you need to chill out. We're doing really well. All right. Well, let's head out for the day.
Yeah, man.
So I'm gonna keep rambling, and I know John's got to go.
Do I? Okay. Yeah, in fact, I do. I've got to go to the shops.
There you go. But it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Please do join us again tomorrow. Thanks for being here. If you've got any suggestions for things you'd like to see on the show, which I don't mind actually, you could do now in the chat for a minute if you want. Anything you'd like to see, any people you think we should interview and talk about, that'd be cool. Let us know what you've enjoyed before and you'd like to see more of. Some returning guests, so it's gonna be fun. Because the stream streak's continuing. Because in England, you talk about places being opened up, but there's still the opportunity for a second lockdown, not to bum people out. So I think there's a long time to go on this streak. I'm not gonna lie.
I've got at least another 3 weeks minimum.
Yes,
And that's a best case scenario. So.
Oh, really? Valerie says, will you talk tomorrow about Harlequins? So, Valerie, we actually talked yesterday about Harlequins, if you want to go listen to the 40k show. Tomorrow night on the 40k show, we will also talk about Harlequins. We're also talking about team archetypes or list archetypes for team tournaments in 40k. This should be a really exciting show. Benjamin Savas says Warmaster, Darren Watson says Warmaster, and then Joe Pagano says Warmaster. Okay, easy peasy. Those are but a message away. Get the brain squig on. I tried.
Oh, we tried. We both tried.
I tried to get to Nick on for years.
He's a busy guy.
The only way I was able to ever get Nick on the show was I went to his fucking house and filmed him. Yeah, that was the only way I was ever able to get him on the show. From the bushes. Yeah. It's the only way you can capture him. He's too quick otherwise. He's just somewhere else. Did you get my email? Maybe. I'll go check. But if not, drop me another one. Talked about Harlequins. Lol. We did talk about Harlequins yesterday. We did. A bit. Not loads. Not in detail. We'll talk about them in detail tomorrow. And Halalex, will the Sylvaneth part of the show be continued? Yes, it will. We will do that, Halalex. And Sobator, GOT, got stuck on the work call. Hey, folks. Hey, Chris. Sorry, we're going. All right, let's get going. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. If you listen to the podcast, stay hydrated. If you're on the Most War Game Patreon, couldn't do it without you. You guys are legends. And thank you for joining us live. Halalex, Rambo Squirrel, K-Dread, Smorgs, Brandy, Aulia, you guys are great. Join us again tomorrow. Let's just have a lunchtime chat again. Also, if you've got any stories that I can DM me some stories about stuff that you did where it was like a positive experience when you were dating about it or something, I'd love to read those out tomorrow. They sound really fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
That'd
that'd
be
be
cool.
good. Anyway, you guys are wonderful. Have an amazing day. See you soon. John, thank you for being with me. In my heart. That's where you are.
Aww.
Right there. Right there. Doesn't work